What's going on, everybody? My name is Chris. Welcome to Bourbinsane. Today we're going to be reviewing Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve. So Jim Beam is the parent company of Knob Creek, and they make several different types of bourbons. I know you all have heard of Jim Beam. It's that white label you see in every single liquor store you would go into. They also make a whole bunch of other products too. So just along the Jim Beam line, they make the white label. Now they make a Jim Beam Bonded, which is of course the 100 proof bottled in bond version. And then they also make a double oaked, which they re-age that bourbon in another barrel of oak. So that's pretty cool as well. But Jim Beam also makes a whole bunch of extension products as well, so Knob Creek being one of the varieties they make. And Knob Creek alone has several different variations. So there's a 100 proof bourbon, there's a rye version of this Knob Creek, and then of course there's the Single Barrel Reserve, which is what I'm going to be reviewing today. Knob Creek also makes things like Baker's Bourbon, and then of course Booker's Bourbon, named after Booker No, who is part of the Jim Beam distillery. The Knob Creek I'm going to be reviewing today is actually a Single Barrel Reserve store pick from Smitty's Specialty Beverage in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Now the specs on this bottle are a little different than the standard bottle. So with the standard bottle, it's going to be aged 9 years, as you can see on the label here, and it's going to be 120 proof. So this specific product, because it is a store pick from Smitty's, it's actually 127 proof, and it's 14 years aged, not just the standard 9. So with the extra age, we'll see if it brings out any different notes with the bourbon. Alright, so let's go on into the color here. So taking a look at this color, it's quite a dark bourbon, and that's what I would expect being 120 proof, actually 127 on this bottle. It's going to be pretty dark, and I would describe this as a very dark caramel. I'm just checking out the legs on it, and we do see a little bit of legs running down on this bourbon. So the legs on a bourbon is what you see running down the side of the glass here, and it's going to be an indicator of the proof of the bourbon. So the way this works is the higher proof a bourbon, the quicker the alcohol is going to evaporate off of that glass, causing it to run back down the glass. So alcohol actually evaporates more quickly than water does. So when the alcohol evaporates, the water that is in the bourbon is going to be running down the side of the glass. So theoretically, the higher proof bourbon you have, the more legs you're going to see running down the side of the glass. Alright, so let's go on into the nose here. Definitely can smell a strong, heavy oak presence in this. I'm also picking up some almost leathery notes. And again, they say that all goes along with the age of the bourbon. So the older the bourbon, you're going to pick up more of those leathery, oaky smells. And it definitely comes through on the nose on this. Now, I've had this bottle open for probably about 6 months, honestly. And I don't get as much of the burn on the smell. It smells very good. It smells very caramely. Yeah, it's got a fantastic nose, and I've always been a sucker for higher proof bourbon, so this is right up my alley. Alright, let's go on and give it a taste, guys. Cheers. You can definitely feel the burn, I'll say that. 127 proof, I would expect to feel that burn. And you can. Up front, you get all the flavors, but on the back of the tongue is where I'm getting that burn. I definitely get the oak coming through on this, and I'm actually picking up leather, again, as I did with the smell, and then actually some tobacco notes on this, on the taste. So again, I think that has to do with the age of the bourbon. So because it has been in the barrel for such a long time, I think all those notes are coming through. Caramel, tobacco, leather notes. It's all delicious. It's all right there. On the second sip, you don't get as much burn, which I was expecting, just because my tongue is acclimated a little bit to the higher proof. I'm picking up a lot more flavor though on the second. I think the initial sip, I was just a lot of burn and tough to distinguish major flavors in there. but I'm definitely getting a lot of the vanillas and the caramels now. And then again, those same notes I mentioned before with the leather, tobacco. Very, very good flavor, and that oak flavor too. It's actually not overly oaked. For 14 years, I was expecting even more oak flavor with this, but it's not to the point where it's too much. I personally, I'm not a big fan of overly aged, overly oaked bourbons, but I really don't get that high oak flavor with this. The higher proof bourbon really brings through great flavors, very good full body flavors. It's got a very long finish. It's still on my tongue now after the sip. Now, because this is 127 proof, I am going to cut this down with a little bit of water just to see if the flavors open up or change at all. So let's go ahead and take a little up. I've got my good old syringe here. Just a couple drops in there, probably about 6 or 7 drops. And we'll give it a swirl here to kind of let it mix together. So you can see even with that, the color is a little bit lighter. Probably bringing this down to between 90 and 100 proof, I would say, based on that, 6 or 7 drops. Almost no burn on the nose at all. All the same notes are right there though. I'm getting more vanilla and caramel now on the nose. More of those classic bourbon notes. The burn is much less now, but all those flavors are still there. I'm still getting the tobacco note, leather note, little bit of oak, and still a pretty long finish actually. I thought bringing the proof down it might make the finish not linger as long, but it actually stayed there for a pretty good amount of time. I'm still feeling it a little bit on the tongue. You know, I think now that we put some water in it, I'm tasting more of a classic Jim Beam flavor. It's hard to describe what that flavor is, but to me I just describe it as kind of a peanut or dry roasted nut flavor. It's just the kind of taste I get when I have Booker's and I put a little water in it too. I get the same type of flavor profile. The Jim Beam Single Barrel Select I have as well, it's the same type of flavor as what's in this. So I think with Jim Beam products in general, I get those same notes, and I kind of describe it as a dry roast or a peanut note. Overall, guys, this Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve is a fantastic product. Knob Creek has some of the best store picks out there. This is probably, honestly, one of my favorite bourbons I have in my entire bar. Just the flavors that come through. It's the perfect amount of age, the perfect proof for me, the higher proof. I think I paid about $50 to $55 for this bottle. And to me personally, I think this is well worth the money. It's a fantastic bottle. You don't need to drink very much of it to give you that nice, warm Kentucky hug feeling. It's very high proof, so it gets you a long way. I have not had the regular Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve, so I can't really compare it to this specific store pick, but I do have 2 other store pick bottles of the Knob Creek, one which I've opened and the other one I haven't. And both of these are fantastic. The other store pick I have is actually only 9 years aged when I talked to the guy I bought it from. So it's more close to probably what the actual Knob Creek 9-year would taste like. This overall, I'll tell you, the extra 5 years, it really made a difference. It's just a fantastic bottle. You really can't go wrong with this bourbon. If you're a fan of higher proof bourbons like me, I would definitely go out and pick up the Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve. It's going to be harder to find a store pick, but if you can find a store pick, definitely get one of those. If you have to get the regular bottle, I would still get it as well, especially if you are a fan of those higher proof bourbons. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Stay insane. Thanks for watching the video today, guys. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button and that subscribe button. Also follow me on Instagram at Bourbinsane and Facebook Bourbinsane.